Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. I'm Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's director of Simulcasting. Hard to believe we're about a month away from live racing at Keeneland, but they are starting the first September meet at Churchill Downs this weekend, which we'll be talking about. But first, last week, we both had Silver Max up at Saratoga. Looks like he's back on his game, and I also had Wilcox in, got a victory in Arlington. I think you were kind of around the right spot by tossing Awesome Baby and the Del Mar Debutante. So no major scores last week, but a couple of wins.
Yeah, nobody had Alpha in the woodwork.
No.
I can't imagine.
couldn't find my way to Alpha. Just a horse for the course, certainly right there.
That's right.
Well, let's go to, we'll start with the Kentucky tracks, and then we'll move out of state to Belmont and Louisiana Downs. So let's start with the 4 stakes races at Churchill Downs on Saturday. They're loading up their first Saturday of this September meet. And the 6th race, the first of the 4 stakes, is the Pocahontas for 2-year-old fillies at 1 mile and a 16th. And they've got some nice full fields here of very inexperienced horses. Where did you land?
Yeah, you look at the race and you figure, okay, this horse came from Ellis Park, this horse came from Churchill, and this horse came from Louisiana Downs and Monmouth. So it's kind of like, where do you start here? And I kind of stuck on Eddie Canale's horse, Milam, who was very visually impressive at Ellis Park, winning by 3 3/4. Horse that ran second, J.J. Julep, came back and won already. So Canale gets him ready. He's really good with 2-year-old fillies, and I'm just going to take her on top just on a hunch. I like Stonetastic. Kelly Breen is a very underrated trainer, and but stuck on the outside might hurt her chances a little bit. And my second choice is Untappable. It seems like tap it horses have chances in all the early races at Churchill. So Asmussen and Rosie was Untappable. I'm going to take Milam on top. Just no strong opinion. Just I think that race at Ellis Park was pretty impressive, 109 3.
I am going to pick I guess you would call Dutching at the race, pick 2 horses. One of the Asmussen horses. In a wide open race, a couple of decent prices on Asmussen trainees. I'm going to take Untappable and Nevada Deputy, who there's not much on paper to really excite you about Nevada Deputy, but his go-to rider, Santana, rides that horse. And this horse is out of a Deputy Commander mare, so should love the 2 turns. So on those 2 things, I'm going to key around the Nevada Deputy, but I think the way I'd play it is probably a 4-horse exacta box of those 2, Milam, the one you mentioned, and Elena Strikes for Pletcher. But if we have to pick one, I'll take a shot with a price play of Nevada Deputy in the Pocahontas. 7th race is for the boys, the 2-year-olds, and it's the Grade 2 Iroquois at 1 mile and a 16th. And again, another big field here. Horse that was written up by Jenny Reese in the Courier Journal earlier this week, Ride on Curlin, that they had offers to sell after a big impressive win at Ellis Park, but they've held on to him for now, and could be one of the top choices in here. Where did you land?
Yeah, I think he will be because of the publicity and Calvin Burrell at Churchill and that 91 buyer. But I think this race is a little more straightforward because I saw Strong Mandate win the Hopeful last Monday, and Temperature ran second, only lost by 4.5, and ran a very good second. First race out at Saratoga. So I think Temperature is the single here in your multi-wager races. I've got to believe that race at Saratoga was much, much, much better than that maiden win at Ellis Park for Ride on Curlin. So I've got a real strong feeling about Temperature here.
I'm with you. The day he ran at Saratoga was Arlington Million Day. I was up in Chicago, and I watched the race on TV, and I was going to go to the window to bet Temperature and got to the track late, and we just got there as the race was going off because Asmussen horses rarely work bullets, and this horse going into that race worked a bullet 59 and change 5 furlongs, and he was much clearer the third place horse, but just Strong Mandate beat him, and now we see how good Strong Mandate is. And I put Temperature on my horses to watch, and now he shows up as a maiden in a stakes race. But I'm with you. I'm making a strong push with him as well. I think he's the one in here. 8th race is the Locust Grove, mile and a 16th on the main for fillies and mares 3 and up. And I thought you got a couple of horses in here that really have shown an affinity for Churchill. I thought this was a tough little spot. And started to go Amy's Deanie coming off second off a layoff, but I ended up with Wine Princess. I think maybe a little bit of a class drop. Loves Churchill Downs. And Steve Margolis is 36% wins when he adds blinkers, which he's doing with Wine Princess. So I'm going to take her to win. Key her with Flashy American, a horse you picked before victoriously. Ice Cream Silence, another one that likes Churchill, and Amy's Deanie. But Wine Princess is going to be the pick for me, and I'll key her with those others. What about you?
This is a nice race. I think this is one that you must spread if you're playing any pick threes. I kind of settled on Ice Cream Silence. She ran okay in the Gardenia at Ellis Park. Just kind of stuck in the middle of the pack and may not have cared for the track that well, but ran great on the Poly here in the Double Dog Dare last year. And I just think that Rusty Arnold, that race at Ellis maybe was a nice prep for this one. She's been off a couple months. I'm going to take her on top. The horses that you mentioned are Wine Princess is certainly the top contender coming out of the Molly Pitcher at Monmouth. And Flashy American is probably going to be the favorite and coming off the Saratoga race. I'm going to take those three in a probably a trifecta box, but I think you got to go deep here if you're playing any pick threes, and it's actually the start of the late pick four as well.
And the ninth race is the Grade 3 ACAC handicap at a mile for 3-year-olds and up. And they've got a couple of horses that have previously competed in Triple Crown races when they were 3-year-olds, like Pants on Fire and Brethren, that seem to be coming into the race in pretty good form. Where did you land on this one?
Yeah, I think the class here sticks out with Pants on Fire. He's raced against a lot of the best horses of his generation. Again, Kelly Breen is a very good trainer, and he's got a pretty good lineup here on Saturday at Churchill. The other horse that intrigued me a little bit was another Tapit horse. It seems like I'm going Tapit every race at Churchill, but Tap Town, if you believe the buyers, he's going to run 100. He's the last 4 races, he's run 100, 93, 100, 97. So if he continues that pattern, I think he's going to win. But it's not just a numbers game. So he hasn't raced against the competition that Pants on Fire has. So I'm going to take Pants on Fire on top, but I'm going to play Tap Town underneath in the exactas and the tries. I'm
going to take a little bit of a wild swing here with a horse called Mo Man, number 7. And the only reason is the buyer last time jumps up and runs a 96, I think it was at Canterbury, and very out of line with what he'd done previously. And it's an older horse, and it's a little back class. He's kept some good company in the past, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe they've finally got him, back to his best form, career best maybe. And if that's an accurate number, then he could still improve off that and be in the mix. So don't know if he'll win, but I'm gonna play with him. I'll pick him to win, but mainly I'll be keying him in exactas and hoping he at least gets second. Does have 2 wins at a mile, and he has run well at Churchill Downs many times. So I'm going to use him with Tap Town, Pants on Fire, and also Brethren. To Kentucky Downs, where they're giving away a whole bunch of money in a very few days of racing. 3 stakes races on the Saturday card. We'll start with the 7th. It's the Ladies Sprint. All of these obviously on the turf. Fillies and Mares 3 and up at 6.5 furlongs. And you're going to see a lot of full fields here with what they're giving away. Where did you go in the Ladies Sprint?
Well, the best horse in the race is Magical Moon, but she's hung on the outside. Don't think that helps in a 6.5 furlong race. This track is so different, and it's a jockey's track. You've got to know how to pace and when to make the move. And I think the outside post hurts Magical Moon. There's no way I'm going to take 5-2 on her morning line out there. I like Classy Zip a little bit at a price with Rosie Napravnik. Michael Maker is 25% first off the plane. Any of her 2012 races wins this, and if Mike can get her back to where she was at that level, I mean, she was placed in a Grade 3 at Woodbine on the turf and ran third in the Giants Causeway. So I think she's got a shot. But the horse that I really like is another 10-1 shot, New Wave. Ran off last time at Ellis Park, ran off by 5, and then just quit. Alan Garcia picks up mount from John Court, which is a big move up. Garcia rode this horse back at Keeneland and Gulfstream, so I think New Wave with Rusty Arnold at a price has a shot here, but it's a wide open race if you can beat Magical Moon.
I liked New Wave as well, and I'm kind of put in Magical Moon and then scratched her out because of the post. I ended up coming to Cat Lore because she was impressive in the only time she was over this course, and because it's such a quirky course there, I think that's always noteworthy. Going to be a good price. I think maybe a little bit of a class drop here. Jimmy Graham rides, so the 9 Cat Lore for me with Keher with New Wave, the 8 To My Valentine, and the 10 Soft Whisper. 8th race is the Ladies Turf, Fillies and Mares 3 and up at a mile. And I ended up with Nash Indy here. I'm taking a shot because this horse was so impressive when she won at Keeneland back in April. And I thought she had, big time potential. And Jonathan Shepard, the trainer, spots his horse as well. She's never been on the turf, but I think she'll love it. And it's a bit of a stretch. It's a quirky track and all, and first-time turf. But just off that ability that I saw her flash in April, I'm going to take a shot here because, if she's as good as I think she can be, then, you may not get this price the next time. So I'm going to try Nash Indy, and then the two Ken Ramsey-owned horses, Awesome Flower and Sisterhood, I'll use with her that have been keeping classier company. What about you?
Well, this must be a wide open race because I like three different horses. Runner Risk, the 3-horse, exits a $62,000 optional claiming win at Saratoga. Well drawn to track the speed here, and the running style seems to suit the course. You need to be up fairly close to the pace at Kentucky Downs. You don't see a whole lot of horses coming from way off of it. Dancing to Town, the 2-horse, Michael Matz, comes out of Presque Isle, which also Nash Indy came out of Presque Isle, and I like horses coming from that track. They seem to be very fit. Dancing to Town has a really good post position and seems to have the most speed among the the inside horses. So she may get an easy lead and go a long way here. And the other horse I like is stuck on the outside, Dame Marie. I think she's very consistent. I think she's going to be right there. You can almost bet that she's going to be in the top 4. She hardly ever finishes out of the top 4. But hung on the outside hurts her a little bit. So I like 3 different horses. Again, Nash Indy is 3 for 3, hasn't done anything wrong. The thing that worries me a little bit about her is her speed figures, and sometimes those don't match up very well in synthetics. So maybe she is better than a 72 or 73. But I agree, Jonathan Shepard is somebody you always got to look at.
Yeah. 9th race, ladies marathon, Phillies mares 3 and up at 1 mile and 5/16. And these are all tough handicapping challenges. It's hard to come up with any singles in any of these races. Where did you go in the ladies marathon?
Well, I'm going to take a real shot here. I'm going to assume that Graham Motion is not just shipping in Dane Street for her first North American start just for the fun of it. I think he's got a shot. He's bringing Prado to ride. Don't know if Edgar Prado's ever ridden at Kentucky Downs or not, and it is a different track. But Graham Motion, a stat that I hadn't really paid much attention to before, you always look at horses making their first start in North America as kind of a tough gamble because you don't know how they're going to react coming over here and running on completely different surfaces. Graham Motion is 37% first North America,
wow, which
is incredible, with a 3.67 return on investment. So that alone tells me that Graham Motion is worth a shot here. And 12 to 1 morning line, this is another wide open race. So I'm going to take a shot here. Mystical Star seems to be the class of the race and will probably get all the money. She's been running Grady Stakes races in New York and Keeneland, and she's just always there, always very consistent. The other horse that I threw into the mix was the 10, and that's Midnight Music for Tom Proctor, who's had a couple races over here after coming over from Ireland. Again, I like the foreign horses. Kentucky Downs is a tricky track, and they probably run on something like that over there. So I'm going to go with Dane Street. If I'm right there, I can make some serious money.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting angle. I ended up playing a trainer angle too with Preferential. Bill Mott had this horse improved its numbers off the layoff. Mott's very shrewd about putting his horses in, and now they're coming into a stakes race off that one. And she was well bet in her U.S. debut at Keeneland back in the spring. So I think they thought she had a little ability, and maybe it's going to be the marathon distance that will help her fully realize it. So I'm going to take Preferential. Got to throw Dane Street in off those numbers you mentioned, as well as Midnight Music. Bajoica and Angel Terrace. I like both of those as well, but I'm going to key around Preferential. That's going to be my pick. Let's go to Belmont, Grade 2 Bowling Green handicap, 3-year-olds and up at 1.25 miles on the turf. And I tried to talk myself into Finnegan's Wake because his numbers have been improving, and he's just been hooking tough fields. And he's a 4-year-old, so I always think those kind of horses have a little upside left to tap into. But I just couldn't get past Boisterous, so I came back to him. I'll play Finnegan's Wake with him and Hyper as well. But Boisterous is going to be the key for me, I think, just on class. And I'll just draw a line through that last race at Saratoga. Is a bad day, and He's coming back fairly quickly for Suge McGahee, so I think he'll be ready to go. He's run well at Belmont before, so couldn't get past Boisterous here. What about you?
Yeah, as hard as the Kentucky Downs races were, this one was easy for me. I think Boisterous is 3 to 5 in here because he didn't want any part of a mile and a half in the Sword Dancer. He never run a mile and a half before, and back to a mile and a quarter, which is his best distance. He's 2 for 5 there. He's inside draw in a small field. Just go to the window because Suge brings him back on 3 weeks rest. I think Boisterous is as close a thing as you're going to get to a lock on Saturday. I'm going to take London Lane behind him just to get a price in an exact. He ran the Sword Dancer as well and only got beat 4 1/4. He's right there on the lead at the half mile pole. So I'm going to take London Lane behind Boisterous.
And finally, we'll go to Louisiana Downs, and their 11th race on their card is the Grade 2 Super Derby. It used to be a mile and a quarter. Now it's a mile and an eighth for 3-year-olds. And this is a race probably headlined by Departing. Can you beat him?
I'm going to try to beat him. I think he is. He looks like a standout. I am questioning very seriously how good the West Virginia Derby was. I mean, he won by 8 3/4, and I watched that race, and he just walked. There was nothing else in the race that was close to him. So I want to say that race is an aberration, and he's a good horse, but I don't know that he's going to be that. He shouldn't be that big a favorite. Bashar ran well in Jim Dandy after a good third in the Iowa Derby, and I think he might be a decent price. He's drawn on the inside. Channing Hill doesn't get a whole lot of respect, but is a decent jock. And I'm going to take Bashar to beat Departing with Holiday Mischief underneath those two.
I'm going to take Departing. Normally I don't like these short price favorites, but I couldn't get past Boisterous in the Belmont race or Departing in here. I think this horse is probably going to be at his best next year and might be a fairly serious handicap division player next year. But I think right now they're trying to pick some softer spots after taking a big swing in the Preakness, and I don't think this is a especially tough spot either. So 2 for 3 at a mile and an eighth. Departing for me. I'm going to use Treasury Bill and Cameo Appearance in exactas with Departing. But I think the best money-making opportunities are at the 2 Kentucky tracks because you get some big fields and lack that most races lack clear-cut favorites. So you got a nice chance to catch some prices, I think, in the races at Kentucky Downs and Churchill. Anything special going on at Keeneland for simulcasting?
Well, let's remember that Kentucky Downs and Churchill, they used to run a Kentucky Downs Turfway double card, and they don't do that anymore. Turfway's not running in September. So Kentucky Downs first post is at 2:35 on Saturday, and there's an overlap with Churchill starting at 6. Kentucky Downs' last 2 races are, I think, 6:05 and 6:35. So Churchill's first and Kentucky Downs' last 2 are real close together, but it's a great day of racing. Kentucky Downs has 10 races, and the shortest field is 10, and they're giving away over $1 million. So if you can't make money down there by catching some prices, you'll not make money anywhere. It's going to be an interesting thing to see how the handle is. And with Churchill running, I think it's a good combination of Kentucky racing. You got from 2:35 on to 11 o'clock, you can bet 20 Kentucky races. So I don't know if that's happened before in Kentucky. So it's probably a good thing that Churchill's running this weekend.
And just a reminder for folks that are handicapped in the early part of the Churchill card, you want to check for jockey changes because I'm told there's riders, because of the money they're giving away at Kentucky Downs, their guys are trying to capitalize down there, and then they're going to get like a charter flight and fly them a very short plane ride. But, there might be guys that might be scheduled in, 3rd or 4th at Churchill that might not make it back in time. So watch the jockey changes at Churchill.
Yeah, it's a short plane ride to Bowling Green, but it's a 25-minute drive on over to from Bowling Green over. So, that is going to happen, and there are a lot of jocks that are trying to get pieces of both of the big money.
Can't
I think
blame
you'll see
them.
a lot of jocks running at Kentucky Downs and then running the later races at Churchill.
All right, Jim, best of luck with your picks, and we'll be here next week to talk about them on the In the Money podcast at KeenelandSelect.com.